Check his pulse, Yugi! Hello, you dueling monkeys. We are hosts, Dandy.
And I'm Luna.
And you know what time it is, Luna?
What is it?
It's time to duel! So, if you've not guessed already, we're going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, Dungeon Monsters Season 1. Dungeon Monsters was the original run of the anime, which...
Was that what it was originally called?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The first arc consisted of 5 seasons. We're just going to talk about the original Season 1.
Uh-huh.
The manga was serialised in 1996, so I'm falling under the 90s there.
Yeah.
And then an anime was released in Japan, which was aired in 1998. And then a company called 4Kids picked it up and made their own anime, which was aired in 2000, and then that was localised into English in 2001. So you might be saying, but Dandy, we're talking about Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it came out in 2001. I see you. You can put your comments down below, and I probably won't read them.
The original release is from the 90s. Who cares when it was localised?
So let's get into it. We're going to be talking about Season 1, which I'm going to say off the bat, I love Season 1. I have massive memories of Season 1 watching it as a wee Dandy Jr. And so I am hyped to talk about it today.
Should I say the one thing I know about
Yes,
Season 1?
What do you know of Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I can give you some context.
So Season 1 of the anime, I know that it's mostly a tournament with Pegasus as the final villain, I think, with his Toon Monsters. And I know that Kaiba is a character who in the original Japanese threatens to kill himself if you lose it.
You got some facts.
But I know basically
Does that get you interested to learn
that.
what those mean in context? It's interesting because one of the things which we will delve into a little bit is they released the show, and then alongside this they released the trading card game, which has spawned into this massive card game.
That's the other thing I know. The other thing I know is that the game in the show has very little in relation to the game actually in real life.
If you compare it to the anime now, it's pretty close to the card game. It might change it just for entertainment purposes in the anime based on what the actual cards do within game. However, it's a lot closer to Season 1 where it is just a fucking wild wasteland of rules that are thrown in there, and I think it's just they were getting their footing on even the card game because it had just started.
I think with the card game, when they were scripting the show, they hadn't actually made the cards yet.
But there's so many things that just started here, and we're going to talk about them because I can. Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 1, it focuses around a high school boy called Yūgiō, who is 16, 17, and basically...
Is he meant to be 16?
Yeah, I did some digging, and
so he's
they're
second year in
they're
high
all
school.
around 16 to 17 years old.
Huh.
They're all that kind of age. So Yugi, his parents aren't in the picture, that's never mentioned, but he has a grandpa, that's the only family he has, who runs a card shop, specifically Yu-Gi-Oh! The trading card game, and he was given, as a kid... Millennium Puzzle to make. He makes it, and this imbues him with the alter ego of a pharaoh, which has different names, but they call him Pharaoh in Season 1. By the end, Pharaoh says, I've been given many names, Yu-Gi-Oh! Atem, and Atem is the actual Pharaoh's name.
Right.
From back in the day.
So, okay, so the Millennium Puzzle.
Yes.
Where does that... Because I know that it's related, because there's loads of artifacts related to Egypt.
Yeah, there are multiple Millennium items.
Yeah.
The puzzle is the one that Yugi has specifically.
How did Yugi end up with it?
I think his grandpa just gave him it.
How did his grandpa end up with it?
It doesn't matter.
It's the core premise of the show.
But no, he gets imbued with this alter ego, the Pharaoh, which you don't learn until the end of episode 1. So I'll quickly go through that. So yeah, you have Yūgiō, and he has his friend group, which consists of Joey Wheeler, the only New Yorker in Japan with the proper Brooklyn-style accent.
Yeah, he's properly Brooklyn. Is he meant to be foreign in the Japanese one, or was that purely for...
No, I think he's meant to be foreign. They localised it, and because he jokes that he's from Queens or something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's him, you have Tristan, and you have Taya, and Taya is meant to be Yugi's best friend. And they're all part of this friend group.
Okay. I didn't realise that the girl was his best friend.
Yeah, no, apparently so, yeah. Okay. You think it's Joey by the end.
Yeah, I thought it was Joey.
No, but really it's Taya.
Okay.
So no, it starts, They're all in high school. They're playing the card game. That's just the thing that everyone is doing. And Joey is learning how to play cards, but he's not that good at it. So Yugi's grandpa's trying to teach him. And then suddenly another student from their school bursts in, who's called Seto Kaiba. This is the only time you ever see him in school uniform, is in episode 1, because he's the same age. However, to give you context, Seto Kaiba is the CEO of a corporation called Kaiba Corp that makes card games, or is just a gaming corporation. Yeah. And he is like smug, rich billionaire kid, thinks he has the world in the palm of his hand and can't deal when people get in his way, basically. So he goes and...
I'm sorry, the fact that Kaiba is also a high schooler has completely blown my mind.
Yeah. So Kaiba comes into the shop and says, "You have a blue eyes white dragon, give it to me." And Grandpa's like, "No." And he said, "Here's a bunch of money, because screw the rules, I have money.
Yeah.
Give me it." And Grandpa's like, "Still no." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to get that card sooner or later." Yugi the next day comes into the shop where Grandpa has been kidnapped. And Kaiba says, "If you want your grandpa, come and get him." And so Yugi goes to Kaiba Corp, and basically Kaiba has Grandpa's card and tears it up in front of him. And the point is that there is 4 blue eyes in the world. He has 3 of them and has torn up the 4th one, so he's the only person on Earth that has these 3 blue eyes white dragon cards.
Okay, no, that does make sense.
Kaiba's like, "That's all I want, now get out." And Yugi's like, "I'm going to make you pay." And Grandpa's like, "Here's my deck, use it to teach him a lesson." And then so they have their duel, which is where all of the most famous memes, every line that if you don't know Yu-Gi-Oh, you will have heard the lines from this. "Draw your last pathetic card, Yugi. My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards. You know what it does have, motherfucker? The unstoppable Exodia. Exodia! It's not possible! No one's ever been able to summon him!" And so Kaiba loses when he thinks he is unable to lose. And the one thing that I should say, which is the crux of this show, which I've neglected to say, is whenever Yugi duels, the pharaoh seemingly possesses his body because he's a master of the game, and he's the one that duels. It's never really Yugi. And when the pharaoh wins the duel, he says, "Kaiba, you have evil in your heart. I will crush it." And he does a thing called a mind crush, where basically he sends the evil that is within Kaiba somewhere else. It's told later. It doesn't matter right now.
Okay. I was going to say, that didn't work very well, because like Kaiba just goes more crazy from here.
So that happened. That's all episode 1.
Okay. I didn't realise that Exodia was in Yugi's starting deck.
Yeah.
What an insane deck to start with. Because also, like, Exodia is, like, a pain in the ass to use.
Yes.
Unless you've got a
For people that don't know, Exodia is a creature that is separated into 5 pieces.
Yeah.
And you need to have all the pieces in your hand to then summon it.
Because I know stuff about the card game, I don't know anything about the show.
In the sense of the show, it is basically just a creature that is unstoppable. It's deemed like
that. It's an instant win.
It says instant win, yeah. Continuing on, the person that makes the card game, who's a guy called Maximilian Pegasus, he basically introduces a tournament called Duelist Kingdom, where he says, "All of the best duelists in the world, come to my island, and if you win, you'll either get a shit ton of money as your prize, or you can face me and choose one thing that your heart desires, and I will grant it." He proposes this tournament. Our friend group with Yugi and everyone is like, "Oh, maybe we'll do that." And then Grandpa says, "Oh, we've received a tape from Industrial Illusions." And he's like, "Oh, that's the people that made the card game. Okay, let's watch it." And then it's just a tape of Pegasus saying, "Yugi, I've contacted you because I need you to come to my island." And he's able to, using shadow magic, freeze time so that he can duel the pharaoh through the TV.
What? What?
And basically he's like, "I've captured all of your friends' souls. If you win, I will let them go." And what happens is Yugi loses because, as we learn, but I can say it now, Pegasus has a thing called a Millennium Eye. And the eye lets Pegasus see the opponent's mind, so he can see the card, so he knows what you're going to play. So no, because of the Millennium Eye, Yugi loses, and basically Pegasus steals his grandfather's soul and says, "If you want your grandfather's soul, beat me in Duelist Kingdom. Come at me, bitch."
Oh, yeah.
And so they're like, "I need to rescue my grandfather's soul. We need to go to Duelist Kingdom." And while this is happening, Joey gets a anonymous tape from his sister, who's called Serenity, who says, "I haven't seen you since we were kids, and I've been meaning to get in contact with you for so long. I've missed you so much. I'm going to have an operation, or I'm going to lose my eyesight very soon, and I want to see you one last time." And so Joey enters the tournament because he can win the prize money to have
pay her for operation.
For operation for the eyes.
Oh.
So that's why he's there. Joey's invested and Yugi's invested for different reasons. And so they go to Duelist Kingdom. So Kaiba was the top player until Yugi beat him.
Right.
And obviously word spreads like wildfire that Kaiba lost to some random kid called Yugi, and so on the boat. You see characters that you'll eventually recognise as antagonists with their own unique decks. And one is a kid called Weevil Underwood. His strategy is he'll do research on the opponent and find a way to basically counteract their deck with its different strategy per opponent. So he's like, I can't figure out a way to defeat your Exodia, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chuck it in the sea. You can't use it now, bitch.
I mean, that's a solution, I suppose.
Yeah. And they're not able to get it back, and they're never seen again. So that's out. That's why Yugi doesn't just use them in every duel. And basically everyone is like, well, you don't have your unstoppable Exodia. I can beat you now, and obviously that's not the case. So they get to Duelist Kingdom, and then...
That's such a, from a writer's perspective, oh shit, wait moment, isn't it? They went, okay, we gave him an instant win button. Oh... No, wait, hang on. No, we can have tension in the rest of this series.
And so they get to Duelist Kingdom. We need to get to Pegasus's castle. The whole thing with the rules is you were given a duelist glove, which you need 10 stars, which go in which go around the glove. Once you have the 10 stars, you can get into Pegasus's castle and continue. And the idea is that you have to duel each other for stars, and obviously losers have to go on the boat home, and you can bet as many stars as you want to get in. And the only thing that I have to bring up, I don't need to go through every single duel, that's not necessary, but going back to the fact that they would make up effects and rules because the card game had just started, and so there's some bullshittery with the things that they make up in the middle of these duels.
It's incredible levels of bullshit,
yeah. And on top of Duelist Kingdom, they introduced a thing where the idea is that people would just play the card game, just at their desk. It was as simple as that. But to make it exciting for people in the kingdom, they had these giant arenas where the idea was you play the game, you put the cards down on this holographic board, and then it would create a simulation of them fighting. Yeah, which is great. From a show, TV, it's great TV. It's really fun to watch. And one of the things they introduce is field power bonuses based on A, the field that they're playing on at the time, and B, the deck that you have. So for example, if you were playing in a desert, then if you had creatures that would fit that environment, their attack and defense would go up. Right. And vice versa, if you're in a desert and you had aquatic creatures, it would go down. Yeah. Which made every single sort of encounter with different opponents, they would have tailored their deck to the field, so they would try and lure people over, saying, come and fight me, bitch! Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, you've stumbled into my trap because guess where we are? I've got the power bonus and you don't. Yeah. So the first thing that they do is, when they jump off the boat on Duelist Kingdom, is Yugi's like, I want to kick Weevil's ass. So he finds him. Fair. And Weevil has a bug deck. And his main creature is called the Great Moth, which the Great Moth has an effect where it spreads poison pollen all over the field, which poisons monsters. Fair enough. Yeah. But the way that Yugi beats that effect is he plays a card called Mokyu, the Magical Mist, which washes the field clean. Which is obviously not going to be an effect, but it's just... Because it's a mist, it washes the field clean. I can just rattle through the fights. You're introduced to a duelist called My Valentine who uses a Harpy Lady deck. Yeah, and loses to Joey. Another one is Yugi faces an opponent called Mako Tsunami who uses a C deck. Yes. Which, to bring up another goofiness in the duel... So Yugi, in the middle of the duel, plays a card called Full Moon. I can't remember its effect, it's not pertinent. Mm-hmm. But what this Full Moon does, because they're near the ocean, is... The moon makes the sea level rise, creating a high tide, so that there's more chance for sea monsters. They get a higher power bonus, and also because there's less land, Yugi can't summon as many monsters on land. Okay. But then, so what he does is decides to destroy the full moon, which makes the tide recede, the ocean recede, and it causes the creatures to beach so that they can be killed. Okay. Then the next duel after that is with Kaiba. It starts with this mysterious stranger nicking Yugi's deck, And it turns out to be Kaiba's younger brother Mokuba, who basically is like, you caused my brother to leave, like everything was okay until you defeated him, like I hate you forever, kind of thing. After Kaiba lost, he went on like a retreat. He had an existential crisis because he didn't think someone could beat him. And basically he's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now, so he retreats. While this is happening, there's a team that work under Kaiba at Kaiba called the Big Five that decides to partner with Pegasus to fuck over Kaiba because basically Pegasus has offered them more money. Right. And so one of the things is, we need to get Kaiba out of the picture. So they send some goons over to basically kidnap Kaiba so he's out of the picture, which is where the famous finger point guns comes from. So they're like, Pegasus wants to see you, come with us, and Kaiba jumps out a window, and it turns out to be on a cliffside, and they're like, well, he must be dead. Well, it turns out Kaiba wasn't dead because he just grabbed onto a ledge. We then cut to Yugi dueling Kaiba, but it's like a grungy looking Kaiba where he says, I'm the ghost of Kaiba because you beat me so hard that I died, and my ghost is haunting you. And Yugi and the team are like, no, come on, that's bullshit. That's not real.
You're a dude. I can tell that.
But one of the things that the goons did is when Kaiba jumped out the window, that he left his deck on the table. So basically, they gave this imposter his deck, and so like, oh, I'm not Kaiba. Well, here's the blue eyes white dragon, bitch. I must be Kaiba because he is the only person that has these cards, and so they're a bit like shaky on that. And it turns out that there's two things because this is where the manga and the and the anime split. Okay. So in the manga, it's basically just like a master of disguise. It's like this clown-looking guy that Pegasus hires to basically fuck with Yugi. Okay. But in the anime, when he turns into this like clown-looking guy, he says, I wasn't lying when I told you I was Seto Kaiba. I'm the evil part of him that you banished to the Shadow Realm, and I've come back in human form to face you.
That is so much dumber.
Yeah. So basically, Yugi is losing to this imposter, but what Kaiba does is he has his own hideout that he goes into, and he's able to hack into the Duelist Kingdom mainframe and fuck with the duel. He can fuck over his own deck. Okay. But Yugi's able to win. The imposter is actually sent to the Shadow Realm legit this time, because that's one thing I should say. So the Pharaoh can do this. He can send people to what is known as the Shadow Realm, which in this universe is essentially just the afterlife. It's hell. And after Yugi wins the duel, Pegasus's men kidnap Mokuba and kind of use him as bait to draw Kaiba in. Right. Kaiba is there to save his younger brother now. There's a bunch of other duels. One of them is against a duelist called Rex Raptor, who uses a Dino deck, which is like a fan favorite of mine. There's the introduction of a character, friend of theirs called Bakura, and they're like, oh, like we're not gonna bet for Starship, but do you want to duel for just a bit of fun? They're like, yeah, why not? And it turns out that he's like, oh, like I got a very special thing I want to show you guys, and especially you, Yugi. And it turns out that he has a Millennium item called the Millennium Ring, which is he's possessed by an evil spirit called Yami Bakura. Evil Bakura seals their souls in the Shadow Realm, and the Pharaoh's like, I'm gonna duel you for my friend's souls, and he's like, if you win, I'll release them, but if I win, you're going to be trapped in the Shadow Realm forever. It's that kind of thing. Right, yeah. And their board game, the monsters that are each of the friends have a favorite monster card. And when the Pharaoh plays it, the souls of each character is trapped inside that card. So basically, like, the Pharaoh wins, and Bakura's soul is trapped in the graveyard, which is essentially hell.
That's what happens to regular Bakura, not Yami Bakura.
To Yami Bakura, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Regular Bakura, like, the spirit inside is defeated, and normal Bakura is released, and he just is part of the friend group now. Anyway, moving on. Other duels he comes across. He fights a kid called Bones, who is part of a gang led by a guy called Bandit Keith, who I've mentioned to you. In his duel, he uses a zombie deck, and a card that he specifically uses is called Call of the Haunted. And the effect that it has is that it brings all monsters back from the grave with the power of immortality, and their health goes up. Every time they die and are brought back, their health goes up.
Oh, okay.
Which, again, making stuff up.
Yeah, I can understand why that didn't make it into the actual card game.
Especially after you know the effects of the actual cards.
Yeah.
Another one is that Yugi faces an Eliminator. He uses a card called Castle of Dark Illusions, which shrouds his side of the field in shadow.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole thing is that the monsters and their stats are hidden unless Yugi uses a card called the Swords of Revealing Light, which is the only way he can see the monsters and their stats and actually attack them. It's the idea that their light
Yes.
That has a legit effect.
Yeah.
But again, you're watching a show and it's entertaining as fuck.
Yes.
And after all these duels, they have all the stars they need, and as this is happening, Kaiba gets to Pegasus's castle to rescue Mokuba, and he finds Mokuba in the cell, and he's about to save him, but Pegasus is there to confront him. And what Pegasus does, he steals Mokuba's soul and puts it in a card. And Kaiba's like, give it back to me.
I've seen the screenshot of that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Kaiba's like, I'll do anything, just give him back to me. And it's like, the only way you can get your kid brother's soul back is by winning against me in a duel. And he's like, I'll do anything. He's like, no, you need the privilege of challenging me, which you'll only get by defeating Yugi in a duel. And if you can't win against him, the Mokuba's soul will stay mine forever. So Kaiba's like, I have absolutely nothing to lose. I'm going to beat you, Yugi. And so outside of Pegasus's castle on the rampart, they have their duel. And Kaiba brings his own special, unique dueling disc thing, which it's basically similar to kind of effects as the stadiums, but the idea is it's more impactful when there's like attacks and like the wind blows, and it's meant to be more like realistic. Kaiba is like, I need to beat you. The Pharaoh's about to win, and then Kaiba stands on the ramparts and says, if you declare your attack, you'll win. However, the result of the shockwaves will force me to lose my balance, and you'll kill me for real this time.
Yeah.
Surrender unless you have the courage to unleash your attack. And Yugi Moto, the kid Yugi, is like, no, this isn't right. Like, he's my friend, regardless of how much of a twat he is. I can't let him die. Like,
okay.
And the Pharaoh's like, I've never backed away from a challenge. I've never lost, motherfucker, and I'm not starting now. Here's my attack. And basically, Yugi's able to stop him and loses the duel. And so Kaiba's able to get in. Yugi loses some of his stars, but Mai is able to give them to him, whatever. And so they're able to get into the castle. They watch the duel between Kaiba and Pegasus, in which Pegasus wins and then steals Kaiba's soul and has it in a card now.
Right.
So literally it is all on Yugi to save all of their souls. And they have their own... The four contestants that have made it this far are Yugi, Joey, My Valentine and Bandit Keith.
Right.
They have their own individual duels against each other until the only one that remains is Yugi. And the only fight that I'm going to talk about is the one between Mai and Yugi, where she uses a card because she has a Harpy Lady deck, so it's primarily like female-led.
Yep.
She uses a card called the Shadow of Eyes, which lures all male creatures into battle. So what he does is he plays a female monster because it doesn't work on female monsters.
Okay. How do you know with like the weirdest
exactly.
shit? Like what's the Karibo?
Exactly, that's why it's broken. So after all these duels, you get to the fight between Yugi and Pegasus. And at first, Yugi is losing because the exact same thing is happening. And then it turns out that they do a thing called Mind Shuffle. When Yugi is there, the Pharaoh, like, you can hear the Pharaoh's voice in his head. But they're still separate entities.
Yeah.
They're not the same brain, so they're not thinking the exact same thing. So what they do is, because they're like, oh, he knows what card I have, because he can see it, but also I have it in my mind. So what I'll do is I'll draw a hand, I'll play some stuff, and then I'll swap over to the Pharaoh, and then he'll do his move, and then I have to trust what move he's done, because he'll swap back over. And because of that, Pegasus can't predict what his hand is or what his moves are going to be.
Right.
On top of that, when he tries to reach into the mind, because of the power of friendship, Yugi's friends appear to block his hand. Because that's just thrown in there as well for extra effort.
Yeah.
And after a bunch of effort, the Pharaoh wins. Pegasus retreats to his mansion, like hideaway, like the secret room in his mansion that we've seen before. But he's like, I'm a man of my word. I promise that I'll give their souls back. But while this is happening, it turns out the evil Bakura hasn't actually died. It's able to repossess normal Bakura, and it finds its way to Pegasus, who has now been weakened by that duel. And is like, I am an evil spirit and a stealer of souls, and I want to collect all the Millennium items because I want to control the entire world. And I've already got the ring. I will get the puzzle eventually. However, you are weak, and we're about to have a duel. And if I win, you're going to give me your eye. But we're not going to duel with cards. Oh, that would be stupid. We're going to be dueling with eye lasers. So there's an image. So there's a thing where they use ancient shadow magic where from Pegasus's eye there's a laser going, and from Bakura's ring, like, all the points shoot out a laser, and the two lasers are attacking each other.
It was a duel.
Yeah, it's a wizard duel, and Pegasus loses, and Bakura takes his eye.
Okay.
So while he's being escorted out, Croquet, who is like his right-hand man, Pegasus, says, "You did win. He's released all of your friends and your grandfather's soul, and also his prize money as well." And Yugi gives the prize money to Joey so that the operation will be paid for.
Sister, yeah.
And Kaiba, who reunites with Mokuba, with his private chopper, he takes them back to civilization, otherwise they'd be stuck on the island. Yugi's deemed the king of games.
Right.
And he returns home with Grandpa, and this is after our massive epic arc has concluded. They go home, and there's a separate little few episodes. There's a young girl that's outside saying, "I need to speak to Yugi's grandfather." He's like, "That's me, what's up?" And he's like, "You stole my grandfather's blue eyes white dragon, give it to me." And he's like, "Well, it's not, I was given it to her by an old friend." And he's like, "No, you stole it." And he's
so
like,
it's been destroyed now.
And he's like, "Oh, so here it is," and it's torn in half. He's like, "Oh, you ruined it. I'm gonna duel you for that card." Yugi's like, "My grandfather's just come out of the hospital. He's had his fucking soul taken from his body. I'll duel you instead." And so Yugi, just not the pharaoh, but Yugi duels this kid, thinking she won't be that good, that she's just like a spoiled brat. It turns out that she's a really good player because she trained under her grandfather, and her grandfather used to be archaeologist friends with Yugi's grandfather. And there's a side story where like their friendship is that they're on an archaeological dig and they get basically caved in, and they only have so much water left, and they say like, "Who's gonna get the last bit of water?" And said, "Let's duel for it." And they're like, "Well," because like Yugi lets her win,
right,
and that's it. And then we have 2 mini arcs after this, which close out season 1. One of them is called the Legendary Heroes arc, which is when the big 5 that originally worked under Kaiba learn that Pegasus is lost. They basically want to have revenge on Kaiba. So how they do that is that Kaiba is developing at Kaiba Land like a VR game, like an RPG that you can go into, like kind of Legend of Zelda-y in nature. And what they do is they trap Kaiba within his own VR game. And so like Yugi and the friends go under in VR to basically save him. And the only thing I have is that Kaiba built a game where there's a princess that's modelled after Mokuba. I don't ask me why, there's many question marks there.
Why did he do that?
And then the last 4 episodes, they're called the Dungeon Dice Monsters arc, which is basically, there's a guy called Duke Devlin who's made his own board game called Dungeon Dice Monsters that's jealous of Yugi, and he's like, "You're a cheater, there's no one that could have beaten Pegasus, because I idolised Pegasus." And he's like, "Well, bitch, I did." And so he beats Duke Devlin at his own game, but not before Joey tries to beat Duke, and Duke wins, and as punishment, Joey is forced to wear a dog costume for the entire Yugi duel.
Is that why he's in that?
Yeah.
Because I've seen screenshots.
That's my only note.
Joey in dog costume.
Yeah, and that concludes season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is it as weird as you thought it was going to be?
I mean, it's probably weirder than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, because
kid me doesn't think it's weird. As a kid, you're like, okay, I'm just going to buy
You accept anything when you're a kid.
Yeah, it swings for the fences in season 1.
It really does.
And by comparison to where it would go, it is incredibly tame in the sense of like, okay, like we're on Duelist Kingdom and we have to get 10 stars to enter this castle. Like, we're just going to go here and duel this person. We're going to go here and duel this person. And that's most of the series. Yeah. There's some stuff going on in the background, but a big part is that.
It feels like the basic story is really simple, right?
Yes.
The basic story is just like tournament to save relatives.
Yes.
Yeah? But all of the flavour that they've added round the outside of this is just insane. It's like the weirdest shit.
Well, you need some meat on them bones. You need some more to chew on. When you get into season 2, it starts discussing who owns what Millennium items. They're introducing even more Millennium items. They're introducing like the Pharaoh and like his relationship, and also Kaiba's relationship to the Pharaoh, and all of this bullshittery. Yes, to boil it down quite a bit, and I know I won't have boiled it down anywhere near as much because I knew you would have questions along the way.
Yeah.
That is season 1. I've just thought of something that's extra weird. So in the another effect thing, so in the duel with the Pharaoh and Evil Bakura, where the friends are reincarnated as like the monsters that they like the most, Teia's brought back as a card called the Magician of Faith, and there's a part where Joey sacrifices himself to save the rest of them, and he's sent to the graveyard, and Taya cries, and that activates the magic effect of her card. And I remember, I have a vague memory of trying to force my mum to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I had that card, and I was like, and I remember completely straight face saying, I play the Magician of Faith. She cries, and then I can use this effect. I know, I remember my mum being like, you stupid fucking kid. What are we doing? Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this delve into Yu-Gi-Oh! I sure did. I don't get to talk about it that often, except all the time. or when I can, I should say.
I'll be doing something from the actual 2000s, I guess. Yeah, that's fine.
So we shall see what that is. But for now, where can we find you, Luna?
You can find me on DeviantArt as LunaDandy, LunaDeaminac. I do a comic series that I've been doing for 8 years or something at this point. Yeah. It's a long ass time that I've been doing that comic. I also do other stuff. There's some more projects that I will be dropping hopefully soon, maybe, which will be actual unique stories that are unrelated to, because the comic is an Undertale fan comic. Dandy, where can people find you on many places on the internet?
Maybe not that many. So you can find me on Instagram under Dynamite Dandy. I do rubber hose and pop arts. You can also find me on Instagram under Paranoia Prince. I do horror artwork. Not so much art, but music. I'm in a band called News for Parrots. We do ska punk music. We do originals and covers. And if you like your music, 2 punk for ska and 2 ska for punk, you can find our originals on all places you can find good music, so Spotify and iTunes and whatnot. And yeah, we'll have some links in the description down below if you want to check that kind of stuff out. And yeah, we shall see you in the next episode, folks. Later, gators.
Bye.